Hello everyone, I am the Crimson Cadaverous wishing you a very happy Sagittarius solar eclipse new moon, which peaks on December 4th at 1:42 a.m. Central Time. Solar eclipses are 3 times more powerful than normal new moons, so we have a lot of powerful energy to work with right now. If you're interested in hearing more about this lunar energy, continue watching this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, and wherever you're watching it, please like and comment on the video if you're so called to. This particular solar eclipse is in the sign of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is the free-spirited adventurer of the zodiac. Sagittarius loves to travel, they love spontaneity, they love trying new things, and that's definitely a wonderful energy for us to be bringing in right now, especially after all of the intensity that we just dealt with during Scorpio season and during retrograde season. So, I put together some things for us to do today. We have an exercise that we're going to do at the end to help us work with this lunar energy. We're going to pull some cards, and I just want to talk a little bit about this lunar energy first. So this particular eclipse is the last eclipse in this series. So when we have eclipses, we have them in the signs that are close to either the north node or the south node of the moon. And we switched over to this Gemini Sagittarius axis in June, or actually we switched the axis in May of 2020, and we had our first eclipse in that series, which I believe also was in Sagittarius, in June of 2020. So the energies that we've been working with since about May of 2020. And if you think about that, that was a couple months into lockdown, a couple months into, the pandemic being actually declared a pandemic. So we kind of gotten over like the initial shock, which was probably going through when we were switching over from the Cancer Capricorn axis, eclipses which happened before this. But we were switching over that energy, so like that March, April energy was really, really chaotic. We're all just kind of like settling into what does lockdown mean, what does a pandemic mean, it's a new thing for us. Once we get to about May or June, doesn't mean anything is any less crazy, but it's almost like we're kind of used to the craziness. So the last year and a half, we've been working with the energies of Gemini and Sagittarius, and Sagittarius has actually been in the south node, and the south node is considered the overdeveloped traits that we have left over from like our past lifetimes. So it's definitely something we're more familiar with, but it's kind of something we need to like maybe be moving a little bit away from and moving towards the north node, which right now is in Gemini. And the north node is more the qualities that we want to develop in our lives. So last month or a year and a half, we have been working with, like I said, that Sagittarius Gemini energy, which basically that energy is just helping us quest for knowledge, but also helping us activate our ability to network with other people. Because of course, Gemini is all about communication and interacting with others. And Sagittarius, again, is all about like philosophy and adventure. So it's kind of like expanding your mind enough so that you are able to connect with others on a higher level. So that's what we've been kind of working with for the last year and a half. And we're about to switch over from that. So this is the last eclipse in that series, and the north and south node are going to switch over next month also. We also just came out of a lot of retrogrades. We're about to see Venus go retrograde. We're about to change years. So we've got a lot of shifting energies right now. And I kind of like that we're coming in with this Sagittarius new moon eclipse because, so a new moon and a solar eclipse is all about initiating things. But with this being that eclipse that's ending this cycle, we are very, very heavy in that energy, which we've been in all year on varying levels of endings and beginnings. So it's like we're ending this eclipse cycle, but we're beginning something new with this particular lunar phase. So what we're basically doing right now is kind of doing the look back and look forward, which again, we've been doing a lot of that this year. That's kind of, in my opinion, just what this year has been about. letting go of things like, you know, the South Node, the Sagittarius, you know, the traits that we need to kind of move away from, and moving into the new traits, like those Gemini traits that we need to embrace. So, a little bit about Sagittarius. It is a fire sign. It is ruled by the planet of Jupiter, which Jupiter is our largest planet. It's all about expansion. It's all about luck. It's a very happy energy. So again, that's why I said this is a really cool energy to work with, because there are some endings that are coming. You know, we kind of probably recognize some endings that we needed to initiate during that full moon lunar eclipse we had a couple weeks ago in Taurus, which of course is actually the first eclipse in the new cycle. So we kind of saw the beginning before we saw the end, which again, lots of endings and beginnings energy. So keep that in mind when you're working with this energy, that, you know, we're kind of going both ways. We're always living in the present, of course, but, you know, the past we are knowledgeable of, and the future we know will eventually come. So we're working with that kind of like looking forwards, looking backwards energy. And I put together an exercise kind of revolving around that. And again, you know, I always try and keep these exercises really easy. This one, I want you to think about the energy of Sagittarius and how it's very adventurous. And imagine yourself going on an adventure. So somebody, you know, your friend calls you up and says, you know, I've got 2 tickets to paradise. Let's say that, you know, we're not adding money, but 2 tickets to paradise, you gotta go, but you gotta pack now, and you can only take 1 suitcase. So I want you to think about that kind of like very minimalistic, you know, taking very little baggage with us, because you can't take nothing with you. You're going on an adventure, you need something, you need some clothes. But I want you to think about that energy of just taking 1 suitcase with you. Okay, so then I want you to think about the last year and a half. Think about everything you've learned during this pandemic, everything you learned during lockdown about yourself and what really matters in your life. Then I want you to list the things that if you were thinking about your life and, you know, you were trying to fit it all in 1 suitcase, metaphorically, of course, you can't fit, you know, a lot of these things you want all in 1 suitcase actually. But if you're trying to fit everything into 1 suitcase, what would you actually take with you? What would you actually bring in that 1 suitcase that you're taking into basically the rest of your life? Because, you know, I don't mean to sound, you know, too crazy about this eclipse, but it is kind of like propelling us into the next phase of our lives. That's what solar eclipse doing anyways. But this one in particular, you know, it is the last of this eclipse cycle. So we're really, you know, over the last 2 weeks especially, like while we've been in what I call the eclipse hole, which is kind of like, you know, that in between the lunar and the solar eclipses, where it's like we've started to initiate some endings, but we haven't begun the new thing yet. You know, we've had a lot to reflect on. And again, you know, the last 2 weeks and the last year and a half, we've had a lot to reflect on. So now it's time to kind of take what we've learned. You know, that's definitely something Sagittarius would love, you know, as much as they're, you know, silly and fun. The adventure basically comes from them wanting to learn. And it's more like that higher learning that comes from actually accepting the fact that you need to go on adventures to learn new things. You know, even if it's not like a physical adventure, like learning anything new is an adventure. If you don't know it, it's an adventure. So, you know, with embracing that energy, what would you actually take with you? And the reason why we're doing that is because we want to think about all the things we don't need to take with us. Because again, if you're going on this adventure, it's like you're going to the airport, you know, you got to drag all your baggage with you. You don't want to take so much stuff with you that you're not able to get on that flight on time. So I want you, again, like I said, think about, you know, just making a list of the things that if you had to only put everything you have on 1 suitcase, what would you actually take with you? And this is meant to have you consider what's actually really important in your life. Because the idea now is, this is kind of our clean slate. That's what a new moon is. That's definitely what a solar eclipse is. This is kind of like clean slate time. We've got the opportunity to just kind of clear everything away, get rid of the things that we don't want, don't need, and basically just kind of think of it more as moving forward with the few things that you do want and do actually matter to you. And so it's like, in a way, it's almost like we're kind of showing gratitude for those things. Because if we're going to list them out and say, these are the things that matter the most to us that I would take on this 1 suitcase adventure with me, they actually really, really matter. So this is just kind of like a way of assessing what actually is important to you in life. So like I said, I wanted to pull some cards. I want to pull from my Golden Girls deck. I've been having a lot of fun with this deck recently. So of course it's based on the show from the 80s, The Golden Girls. And it's really fun because, you know, there's a little bit of comedy to it because the show is a comedy. And it's kind of cool because I know the characters pretty well. I grew up watching that show. I remember watching it and having to explain some of the sex jokes to my grandma, which is, you know, that's always kind of like a fun thing. At least she was a little naive. But I've got a few cards here. Okay. So a couple of these I definitely want to talk about. So we got the Six of Cups. And we see Rose there. I think it's with her, like, long-term boyfriend that she had, Miles. And, throwing things around here. And, you know, this card is about thinking about the times in your life when you were happy and what actually made you happy. So it's like the happy memories of the past, but being able to take those happy memories into the future to use them. So it's almost like a resource. Like, you think about your happy memories as a resource that you can use to build more happy memories. And then we also pulled the Sun. And again, we keep pulling Rose. And I think she's got, I don't know if she was a Sagittarius, but she's definitely got that kind of like fun, vibrant, you know, like she's actually represented as the Fool in here as well. And the Fool isn't necessarily bad, you know, the Fool's just carefree. And Rose is carefree. And so pulling the Sun, I think is great right now because, you know, the Sun, I always think about the fire. I always think about Leo first, but we can definitely associate Sagittarius with that because it's also a fire sign. And I always think about the Sun as just being kind of like shine brightly. Shine as brightly as you possibly can. And I definitely see that this new moon solar eclipse is telling us to shine as brightly as we possibly can. You know, the whole thing with a solar eclipse is that the Sun is obscured by the moon. So the Sun represents our ego, so ourselves, and then the moon represents like our feelings and how, you know, we comfort ourselves. So it's almost like how we feel and how we comfort ourselves is being eclipsing our ego, but in a way that's to just give us a clean slate. It's just to kind of clear away, you know, all the aspects of our ego that are a little toxic. So we need to look at it as that. And I was talking about the Fool. We pulled the Fool. So that's Rose just looking all, you know, fun and happy and having a good time. And that's the energy that we need to approach this solar eclipse with. Because things have been heavy. You know, the last year and a half, this eclipse cycle was really heavy. You know, I think it was meant to be heavy because it is meant to propel us into the future. So, and I also pulled two more cards that have to do with Sagittarius. So I pulled the Wheel of Fortune, which represents Jupiter, which is the planet, of course, you know, that rules Sagittarius. And then I pulled Temperance. And I think Temperance is a really fun card to talk about with Sagittarius because sight unseen, it kind of doesn't seem like it would attach to Sagittarius because Temperance is all about kind of like walking the middle path and, you know, like being even keeled, which Sagittarius is kind of wild and crazy. But the thing about Sagittarius is they are wild and crazy, but then they get up and go to work the next day and with no big deal. They can balance things out. They can have that temperance moment where they balance things out and, you know, have fun, but still get their responsibilities done. Nobody else can seem to figure out how Sagittarius does it. Maybe that's the thing that we all need to tap into with this solar eclipse is how does Sagittarius straddle that middle line? You know, like how do they, you know, go out and get, you know, crazy drunk one night and get up and go to work the next day like nothing happened? Not necessarily suggesting doing that, but that kind of energy of just being able to keep going. So I definitely suggest doing what you can to tap into the Sagittarius energy. This eclipse is not going to be visible anywhere basically except for like Antarctica and some parts of like, you know, like South America and stuff like that. But you could probably watch it on NASA if you wanted to do something like that. But I definitely suggest taking the time to really consider what you want to take on that one suitcase journey with you. And obviously you don't have to get rid of all the stuff that you don't put on the list, but think about what really matters and what you want to take with you while you propel yourself into your future. So I want to thank you all for watching this video. And like I said, if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. Please like this video and please share it with your like-minded friends. If you're interested in getting a tarot card reading from me, please look at my link tree, which is going to give you a link for booking an appointment with me or send me a message. But I hope that you all have a wonderful Sagittarius solar eclipse new moon. Goodbye.